you guys know something about programming, right? Hopefully, at least got some concept. There's a lot more to the concept. So our flow is written using the C# programming, and how many lines of code do you think our flow has? Basically, just a guess. The application, well, you are familiar with the application. There are probably 10 screens over there, right? Maybe not even 10. Probably 5 or 6 screens. So if you write that program and come with basically 100,000,
2,000.
that's a good number.
2,000 at the back.
2,000.
2,000 lines of code. Okay. Anybody else want to take a guess? Think about, somebody has to type that in, right? I mean, the developer is basically typing in. So while we are on the topic of the programming, let's go and check out what we do on our flow cycle. So first of all, 2,000 is no way close. Okay, it's gonna blow all the estimates. I mean, I would say it's probably a million line of code that our flow is written under, and it's a small app. I mean, it's not that big app. Typically, I mean, when you're gonna go in the real world type of application like business apps in any company, you're probably easily gonna go more than a million, no question. So there are developers working on it, typing it. That's why we say typing is the most important thing you wanna learn if you wanna survive in IT. Okay? Because that will help your productivity, that helps you write a lot of things faster. And if you are done 8 hours worth of work in 4 hours, who doesn't like it, right? You can go home, I mean, after 4 hours, I mean, or do something else, read upon it, or browse internet, whatever you do. So typing will help you a lot, okay, for anything. But this is one of the page here. I think, let me see. So hopefully you guys can recognize what this page is. It's kind of like a part of the page, right? It's a loan calculator, small page here, and it has a button, basically, or link, whatever is there, and then you can input this thing. And the way it's written is, I mean, you have the screen mockups, whatever is there, and then you have code associated with it. So if I click on this button, so there is a piece of code that gets executed, as Dylan mentioned, right? There is an input for something. So page is displayed, you enter something and do some action. So program is to go and calculate the loan information, basically the payment information. And we can see the back of that page, what that page looks like. And this one where you will see, so we are, hopefully you can read now. So these are variables, right? So there is a temporary variable right there. So I'm reading the amount from the loan amount, basically, that field. And then I'm doing some cleanup. If they type in dollar or string or anything like that, it's gonna wipe that out. And I just strictly want the amount so that I can do some calculation. And this is where the calculation happens. So formula is pretty straightforward. Math.round, these are some of the functions, the mathematical functions it's using. Then you are converting to the decimal, then you are converting, actually parsing the amount to the decimal, and then you are applying 3 divided by 100 and then multiply by 2, something like that. So that's basically some of the formula, right? We were talking about it, it's not anywhere. But this is a small, basically program like this. And this click, this is a click event, so when you click on that, it's gonna go execute and display the basically calculation right on there. So this is a very small piece of code. And if you really look at it, there are several different pages there. So it can easily surpass, I mean, probably 500,000 to 1 million, I would say, between that. I mean, this particular app has that line of code. And it was developed over probably a year, over time. And a lot of code goes on there. So I just wanted to get you guys some perspective on the coding and whatever. Now again, the tool is used Visual Studio. So that's the tool that's written under C# code, and there are a lot of different things there. Okay. So I just wanted to get you a quick overview. as far as the coding goes. Alright, so we'll move out from the coding and we'll talk about something else. So any question on the code? I mean, you guys weren't surprised, right? I mean, it's pretty normal. I mean, this same thing. As you gonna work with more apps, you're gonna see a lot of different things. Okay. So the second thing, so you have a code, piece of code, but the data for the Airflow that you do is not part of the code. Okay, it's a completely separate. So whatever, if you create a new user or if you add a new dealer or anything like that, that gets stored in the database. So the line of code that we talked about doesn't include the data itself. Okay, so there is a completely different backend database that is running under, and that includes all the information that you are entering. It is stored in the database. So let's see what so today's goal is to get you guys some understanding of the database. I think 8 or 9 folks, I mean, you guys attended the database class, so it might be a little bit repetitive for you guys, but it will help other folks. So we'll go over that piece anyway. So the goal is to see what really the database is and how the data is organized in the database. So I'll go over some of the basic definition regarding the databases. But essentially what the database is, it's an organized piece of basically data. It's a collection of data. When we say organized, right, so the goal here is you can find the information quicker, whether you are entering the dealer information or user information or anything. You store the data in such a way you can easily pull the information out and do something with it. And these are some of the examples of the databases. So like telephone guide and all other things, that is considered database. Even if you have like a paper for filing cabinet and everything else, that is kind of like a database as well for you. So it's just not the computerized, okay? It doesn't have to be digital. So anything that you do organization-wise, that is called database. So this one is kind of like it gets you some background, so file folder, cabinets, all those things were kind of like previously the data was stored in there, but now we have computers, so now we are putting digitizing everything, putting everything in the computers. This is just a difference between data versus information that you guys are going to run into basically every time when you are talking about. But data is nothing but any piece of information, basically data like a user, basically it becomes a data. It's kind of like you are creating a new user, new dealer, those are piece of data. But when you are trying to analyze and organize such a way, so it becomes kind of like some type of information for you guys. And that's where you use the information, not just the data. I mean, collecting the addresses doesn't really, going to help you anything. It's not going to help companies generate the business. When they look at the address with the customer and in a bigger picture, that's where they can basically convert that data into the information and make some meaningful decisions out of it. Why do we need a database? Obviously, these are some of the goals, right? For Airflow, it's the same thing. You are trying to solve a business problem by getting multiple things, keeping record and all those things. But those are some of the goals we need databases. But ultimate goal is to generate some type of actions, right? For Airflow, you know the business problems that you are solving. In order to do that, you need to have a data. You are collecting converting to the knowledge and information and knowledge, and ultimately making some type of actions or business decisions out of it. And that's what's going to drive the revenue for everybody who is using Airflow. Whether it's a dealer, it's going to speed up the process for them faster and everything. Airflow guys, they're going to get more subscription revenue and everything. So that's the goal. Ultimately, you just don't want to collect the data, just sitting out there. If you don't really plan to use it, then it really doesn't make sense. But this is why business put a lot of money, invest a lot of money in the collecting the data, building the systems. These are some of the types of users that we encounter. I mean, when you are dealing with any project, so probably most you guys are familiar with this term. So the business analyst, QA analyst, all kind of programmers, the end users are the business users basically. They are the ones actually who is using the system ultimately. But then you have the IT users, or kind of like a programmers, business analysts, QA folks. They all use database. So let's get some couple of fundamentals here. What are we really talking when we say database? Okay. So there are two pieces of information that two pieces of items that you're gonna need. One is a software that can host your database, where you can create your database and put the database out. So like for Airflow, you gonna need a database, but database needs to run on certain type of software. That is called database management software or database management system, basically. And the second thing is the information. So you create the database, you start organizing the information, basically, in the database. And those are called entities in terms of the data. Entity is nothing but any piece of information that you collect in organized manner. Okay, so that's what becomes part of the database. So database here, you have DBMS and entities. Those are the only two things that you're gonna focus on. So when somebody says database, these two things should come to your mind. What is the software and how the information is organized as part of the entities. Okay, so these are some of the current, there are several databases out there, but these are the popular DBMS systems. Oracle, SQL Server, all kind of things. And probably it depends on the company, what software they have. So Airflow is built on top of the SQL Server. So SQL Server database, where the database is created for Airflow over there. But the same database can be created on Oracle. You can swipe it. If the company decides to do that tomorrow, you can poach your database, migrate to the Oracle, and it will be running on Oracle. Same database. So there shouldn't be any issues. And there are other kinds of databases as well. So we talked about the DBMS, right? Those are different, that's the software. But when we talk about the databases, how are we going to organize the information? So databases are basically entities are organized as tables, basically in the database. When you actually start creating the database, you're going to start putting the entities, mapping out the entities into the tables, basically. Table, fields, and records. Those are the three things that you're going to need as far as the database goes. So ultimately, it's an Excel spreadsheet, right? You have one table, giant table in Excel. Then you're going to have a row, which is record, and then each column is kind of like a field, or basically that becomes a field or column. So that's how the table is organized. So anything that you collect in Excel is kind of like a small database anyway, because it has the columns, rows. You start creating the records and everything. It's one table. But database can have multiple tables and number of tables. It could have, depending on how you want to organize your information, how many tables you're going to create and everything else. So we will take a look at the Airflow and how the information is organized in the Airflow database, so that you guys will get some picture on that. But this is another example of the student, basically course registration, kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. And let's see, I probably split this side. But this is kind of like a one table that you can think of. You have the ID number, zip code, you collect the information, and these are the columns or fields, and this becomes the rows. Another concept is every piece of data that you collect has some type of type, whether it's a number or text, or you can put the images as well. So those are different types associated with each basically column, let's say. So here, if I go back here, the ID number is all numbers, right? Then you have last name is alphanumeric. The zip code is all numbers. So you can associate a type for zip code as a numeric type. And these are all the alphanumeric types, different kinds. So if you have a date, then you could have a data type. That's what is displayed here. Let's go and dive a little bit into the actual database, and so I can show you a little bit more over there. So as I said, our float database is built on SQL Server. So this is kind of like one of the tools if you are dealing with the databases that you need to get familiar with, where you can access the database and run some type of queries and those things. So this tool is specifically for the SQL Server. This is where everybody logs in if you are writing a query or if you are doing creating the databases or anything else. So as soon as I open, I'm going to see on the left side, this is what you're going to see as part of the DBMS. So you have databases and everything else. Okay. So only thing that you are interested in as a QA, if you are ever dealing with the SQL Server, you focus on where is my database, how do I get there, and how do I write the queries and those things. So for Rflow, I have Rflow database here, and then I have on my system, I have multiple databases. So DBMS, you can host any number of databases. So if you have 10 different applications similar to the Rflow, you all have database. You can host databases here, right there, in the same software, DDL. All right, so let's see what we have in Rflow and how the information is organized. So for Rflow database, I have. Hopefully, you guys can recognize this lenders table. So I have tables. These are all tables. So within the database, what you have is the tables, you have views, and programmatically and everything else. Most, as a QA/BA, you're probably going to be interested in the tables, where you can do some queries, look at the data and see the record is created or not. Or maybe when you are creating a test data, you might need to update certain records. So you probably need to get familiar with the table structure. So here I have a dealers, lenders, users tables, different tables. So let's pick up one of the tables here. So I have a dealers table, and hopefully you can recognize the information that we are collecting on the screen. You have shop name, franchise number, street address, port. Probably it has a lot more fields in there. I guess you are collecting everything on the screen, right? It's a giant screen probably for the dealer. It may not be a giant screen, but let's go back here, see what you have. So I'm going to log in as a super admin, and I'm going to go to dealer management. Let's find the Germain. So you have all this piece of information. So as soon as you click on save button, that goes in the dealer table, basically. So that's how the information gets translated. And all these are different fields, basically. So if you check something, that is a separate field mapped out to that particular screen. That's what you are seeing here. The bit data type is a yes or no. Bit is 0 or 1. So yes, either you can store true or false type of values. Then you have the shop name here, obviously, shop name German Toyota. The franchise number and everything else is there. You have city, state, and all those things. Now some of the things are ref. So if I go to the ref here, let's see, find that field here. So area manager ID, region manager, ref ID. Okay. So these are stored as IDs. And this is actually the small query I have written. It's a very basic query. Select star from dealers. The way you interact with the database is you need to know the SQL, okay? And you need to know the fundamentals of SQL. How do you write the queries? There are only 4 kinds of statements that you need to learn. Select, insert, update, and delete. Delete, you're probably not going to use it, so I would say just 3 kinds of statements. So let's understand what those are in terms of this one here. So assume this is our loan. Let's say this is a database here. And when you are searching anything, right? When you are searching and you are seeing the list of results, basically all the matching results, essentially what you are doing is you are basically providing the instructions to go and fire this one of the queries in the background. And that gets you the set of matching dealers, and then somebody is displaying on the page. So at this point, you as a user, you are sending the commands here or program, triggering some type of program that's going to execute the query, and then it's going to read you the results and send you back. So at this point, what you are doing is you are firing or triggering a select type of command here. So like I have it here, select star from dealers, and it will give me all the dealers basically in the system. When you are creating a new dealer, basically you are sending the information from the page, creating a new dealer, you are sending the information here, and the database, you are triggering the insert command basically. So at this point you are executing a different kind of command, which is called insert statement. Now let's go one more step. So here you are searching for somebody, you got the list of dealers, and now you go back to the edit information, right? Where you are modifying certain things, and you are sending that information back again. So at this point you are modifying the existing information, right? Existing dealer, and that goes in as an update command. So those are the only 3 commands that you probably need to get familiar with. Now there are a lot of variations here in the select. These 2 are straightforward, but there are a lot of variations here. Okay, when you are doing the joins and everything else, that's where most of the skill comes handy if you have SQL knowledge and background. So SQL, get familiar with that. Okay, it's a structured query language. It's a query language basically. Okay, and that helps you interact with the database and see the different things. So I was talking about the select command, right? So I'm just opening up in the query window here in the tools, and I'm running the executing, and I'm getting all the dealers. Now, select command, if I am looking for a specific dealer, right, then I probably need to filter out basically. So as I said, there are several variations with the select command. So let me just show you the basic variation here, which says I want specific dealer information. So if I say where shop name like G percentage, okay. So this one should give me all the dealers that has a starting with G in there, basically. Okay. So this gives me 2 dealers in my query. Now that if you imagine you are a user, you are searching for dealer and you type in G, I should see only those 2 dealers on the page. Okay. So if I go back to my app here, right, and I search on it, right now it's showing me anybody in the G. Okay. Anywhere in the name, well, regional has a G in there, so it's finding and matching anybody with the G. So if I change my query a little bit here, so now I'm giving instruction, find anybody that has a G in the name. So it's giving me this 5. Now, you are seeing different results here because I'm running locally on my machine, and the other one you are accessing through internet, and it is a database, different database. Okay. But again, essentially it's running the similar command in the backend. So whatever you are sending in, searching on the page, it's coming here, executing this type of query, sending you results back, and you are seeing on this. Okay. So if you are a tester, you probably need to brush up a little bit on the SQL, okay, so that you can write this type of queries and see some of the things. Let's just go with one more basic command. Let's talk about the insert, right? So insert is for adding the new records in the table. So if I say insert into users, I'm gonna go and pick the users this time. It has less fields. So I can insert, simulate the same behavior, users, where I can say user ID, username, password, active, user type, first name, last name, and that's it. Values, I can say HP123, password, training, active 1, is it active or active? So what essentially I'm doing is I'm trying to insert some data in the backend using the SQL commands. And it's going to throw me some errors if I'm not inputting all the fields and everything. But essentially, it's triggering when you are creating a new user from the screen. It's triggering one of this type of command, insert command, in the similar format. And Dilip talked about the scripts, right? So that's where this command is basically written in the script, one of the scripts here. So let's pull up in the scripts. And the reason I said it's like a. So let's find the script here, see what is the command. So this is where the create user gets executed here. So all the information is coming here, and then you have a script that basically has populates all the fields here. And Dilip was telling, Dilip mentioned the procedure, right? You guys, he was going over the script, the starting point. So this is the name of the script that gets executed. You have begin and end, and then you have the insert in a few other lines of code over there. Okay. So that's where you're gonna have a little bit different programming on the backend side of things, database side of things, like in terms of the scripts, which are like procedures. You have C# code that is running. Then you have the data, basically, is the third piece. So everything is combined, that makes up the whole Airflow application, basically. So if you are looking from the development standpoint, that's C# code programming, SQL programming, and the database manipulation.
Insert the user here in SQL. Is it going to reflect on the website? No.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, it will.
So same user, because right now I'm accessing a different URL, right? If I run locally, and I can basically have that user shows up on the screen if I run that command in the backend.
Insert again.
So, but then, when you are entering from the site, there are other rules that also happens. Whether it's a valid user or not, username confirms. From the backend, I can type in anything in the username. The program generates that for you based on the last name and first name. So I have to apply the rules manually if I'm doing on the backend. Okay. That's why you don't really go and directly insert unless you know what those things are, and let the program do it for you. Okay. All right. So we talked about the type, right? So you got the basic command. So let's take a look at how the tables are created, structured. So each field, like a dealer example, right? You have the type as well. So you have shop ID, which is not null. The shop name is a varchar 100, and it allows nulls. Franchise number. So there are different data types that you can specify as well. And if I go in the design of the table, I can see that clearly, basically right there. It's a varchar 10, city is allowed varchar, C5. Only numeric field I have is shop ID and number of days, right? That's what you're entering. You have date time data type for certain things. The ref and everything else. There are bit data type, which is 0 or 1. But essentially, the database, you can have different tables created, mapped out for dealers, lenders, and it helps you organize the information. That's the goal. So. Yeah.
Programming language.
Mm-hmm.
SQL,
Yeah.
or TC?
So SQL Server adds T-SQL, which is essentially SQL, but T-SQL they call it, it's for SQL Server. So like Oracle, it's called PL SQL, but essentially it's a SQL. It's built on SQL, they have their own function. So depending on the DML, they're going to have their own function, so the custom functionality, that's what it is. But as long as you know SQL, you can write all those commands, same command. It will work on any database. The variation comes in when you write the scripting. So like create a procedure using this type of command, but Oracle it might be just create proc or something. It's just a little bit variation. The one last thing is you don't need to look into the database to see how the database tables are organized. Typically, there is an entity relationship diagram. Okay. That is given or that is created for the database. So as a QA BA, you probably ask for this type of diagram to see how the tables are related. Because when you are talking about pulling the information from multiple tables, that's where this ER diagram comes in the picture for you. Because you need to join these tables using the joins, basically table joins and all those things, and pull the information out. So essentially what we are saying is, so in the table I have a rep ID stored, but here on the screen it is displayed as trep, the actual name of the rep. So in order to pull this name, I need to join with the user table so that I can get the name out of it. So that's where you're going to join dealer and the user tables and pull the information out in a single query. So this particular ER diagram can help you understand how the tables are organized and related. All right, I think that's all I wanted to cover. I mean, there is a lot more information. Just feel free to read through it. But basically, it's the different clauses and dealing with the queries. That's what you need to basically focus on. But the select is the one that you're probably going to end up using a lot. Okay? Select queries and these variations. Any question?
I just want to put one comment, Marshall, here for them is, we talked about some of the precondition steps, right?
Yeah.
That dealer needs to exist in the system. You usually create a SQL scripts as part of your test case to validate those precondition and postcondition. A lot of times it's called data setup and data cleanup scripts.
Yep.
Right? So, for example, we were like it's testing it out, the rflow and rep creation, right? the user was already in the system, so automatically create the new one with a new number. How do you, if you want to specify that it creates the number 2 at the end, you need to first go in the system, make sure you clean out that thing, right, and then you add it. But when you can't just simply clean out a specific dealer, what happens to all the credit application he has created, right? So those are the kind of things that you need to look through the joins and do a data cleanup and data setup scripts. And then typically you can always create, at the end of test case, once it finishes successfully, you run the data cleanup script, which will take out those data that you inserted into the system, so that the next time you run it, it starts from a clean and get